Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse and more specifically beautiful Danville, Illinois homeland, the Correllian Publishing. And this is Midday with Reverend Don, and with me is my guest, Krys Copeland. Hi, Krys.
Hi, Reverend Don. Good to be back.
And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into whatever platform you happen to be watching on, and they will appear here in our chat room. And today, as every Wednesday, we're going to talk about what is new from Correllian Publishing. Like this, what do you have for us?
Oh, I have a few things to share with everybody. But before we do that, it seems that your microphone may not be picking you up very well. I don't know if someone in the chat can confirm that, but I'm having a bit of trouble hearing you. It seems to be almost like you're underwater or something.
Oh my.
There, it's better. All right.
Oh,
So I don't know what that did, but that fixed it. Yeah.
okay.
All right. So yeah, we have a few things lined up for today. First, I wanted to just walk you through a few of the free materials that Correllian Publishing offers. On our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, you will find daily videos posted at least 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, but it really just depends on if I have time to create a video that day and post it. But we offer a lot of free content through those channels. So if you haven't followed us yet on those channels, please do so, and please feel free to share our content as well. That really helps to grow our following and to introduce people who are new to the Correllian tradition or new to paganism in general, and provide them with some really good and quality free resources, which are sometimes hard to find these days. So
Yes, indeed.
yeah, that's what I wanted to discuss today. Basically, each day I usually have a theme for the videos, and so on Sunday we do the theme of Spiritual Sunday or Spell Sunday, and we created a short video on the spell that is part of the weekly spell, which is another great free resource that you can find by signing up on our website at correllianpublishing.com. Just scroll to the bottom of any page on the website, put in your email address, and every week you will receive a newsletter with a free spell, as well as a free lesson in astrology, tarot, and numerology. And we've just recently added a craft corner as well. So you'll find some information on different pagan crafts. And the one that we sent out this past Sunday, of course, was Maybone themed. So our spell as well was Maybone themed. And I will share that video with you from our Facebook page. One moment while I figure this out. Which one is the first one? Yes, that's the first one. All right. I believe you can see the video now.
I think you need to do it again.
Okay. Let's see.
I think we both hit the show button at the same time.
All right. Let me try that one more time. I believe I've got it now.
There we go.
Okay. Oh, and it's the volume showing up. Can everyone hear it?
Actually, it appears to be stalled at the moment.
Interesting. Let me see here. Okay, I think we've got
Wisdom Monday. We're reflecting on a powerful quote from Starhawk, a guiding voice in modern paganism. We are all longing to home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned, we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Starhawk reminds us of our deep longing for true community, a place where we can be authentic without fear, judgment, or conflict. But even in our pagan and witchcraft circles, conflicts can still arise, often fueled by ego or misunderstandings. These are the moments when witch wars can start. Starhawk's wisdom urges us to remember why we gather and why we build these sacred spaces, not to dominate, but to connect and find our spiritual home. If you've ever been caught in the crossfire of community conflict, remember that our greatest power comes from connection, not division. Want to learn how to navigate these witch wars with wisdom? Download Witch Wars Defense Manual, Volume 1 by Ed the Pagan Hubbard, for free at correllianpublishing.com, and pre-order Witch Wars Defense Manual, Volume 2, How to Win. These books offer essential strategies for creating stronger, more harmonious communities. Blessed be.
All right. So this video, let me stop sharing here so we can discuss that. This was actually not the Sunday video, as you might have noticed. This is the Monday video, where we give a little bit of elder wisdom for Elder Wisdom Monday. And this week's was from Starhawk, the quote from her about community. And we tied that into the theme of Reverend Ed Hubbard's new book that will be coming out in late October or early November. So keep an eye out for that. And just like the advertisement said at the end, you can find that on CorrellianPublishing.com. And you can also pre-order Volume 2 while getting Volume 1 for free. So yeah, that's the first one. And yeah, any thoughts on the video or the content?
It was a lovely video. And I mean, obviously, as often as I talk about it, I'm very, very, very conscious of the fact that witch wars are a problem in our community. And you know, one of the things that I think a lot of people mistake is not realizing that they're an intentional problem, that the people who start them aren't standing up for some principle, they're not having a natural reaction, it's a political tactic. There may be some exceptions, but it's usually a political tactic. And hello to Bimby in the chat room. It's good to see you, Bimby.
Hi, Bimby, good to see you.
And because we have a guest today, I don't have the chat room on the screen, but the chat room certainly as open as it always is. One of the things I'm seeing lately is people arguing over the name of the Festival of Mabon. Some of them in very heated terms. And, you know, all I can say is, what a stupid argument. If you're arguing over that, I think you really need to take a moment and ask yourself why you think in a moment when our community faces the challenges it's facing, that you should make this a priority. And hello to Sherry in the chat room. Sherry Festerman, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
A new name, and hello to Antonio.
And yeah, hello Antonio. Good to see you as well. Yeah, that you actually bring up a really great thing that is often a topic of conversation among English teachers that I work with. Not regarding that particular word, since the majority of them are not pagan, but just little arguments over precisely how a word is pronounced. When in my experience, having worked with different people around the world, it really just depends on where you're from as to how it's pronounced. You know?
Well, I mean, there's one, quote, proper way to pronounce English. That's the received pronunciation. Otherwise, sometimes called in this country the Queen's English. There is no other proper pronunciation. There used to be the transatlantic dialect, but that's virtually extinct. Everything else is a dialect, and those dialects vary. And you know, your regional dialect is not the only proper way to pronounce something. And you know, I find myself dealing with this frequently.
In Texas communities, the big argument is over how to pronounce pecan, and whether it's pecan or pecan. And that's the hill I will die on. It is pecan. Pecan sounds weird and gross. So.
Well, that's actually the way I pronounce it as well, but I'm very conscious of the fact that other people pronounce it differently, and that there are parts of the English-speaking world, which may have pronunciations I don't even know about. Because, there are parts of the world where English is a dominant language, and people from Britain or the United States might not be completely able to understand what's being said because it is heavily hybridized with local languages. But this is what language does. It constantly changes. Um, I had this conversation once over the word geomancy, and the point of view that I took originally was, pronounce it how you're going to pronounce it. It doesn't matter how you pronounce it. Do you understand it? But of course, I had someone who just had to correct me that it's really geomancy. And no, in English, if you're going to be proper, it's not. It's geomancy. You wouldn't say biometry. You wouldn't say geology. There is a rule in what you want to call proper English, but very few people are actually speaking that. We're at the point that Latin was during the Roman Empire. We're in the process of becoming several different languages. It'll take a couple of hundred years, but and it may be slowed down by our media because we do have a situation they did not have. Because if you lived in um, the province of Gaul or the province of Hispania, you are never likely to hear how a Roman pronounced Latin um, unless somebody was visiting. But
Yeah.
here we have our media, but still, I mean, it's constantly changing. I have seen the way certain words are pronounced in American English change during my lifetime, or at least mutate during my lifetime. One of the ones that's of particular interest to me is the word beloved, because in liturgical sense, we use that quite often. But increasingly, people just don't know that pronunciation. They say beloved, um, which is certainly the same word, but in a different context.
Yes.
Obviously, beloved is becoming a thing of the past, and one simply has to accept that it's what's going to happen.
Well, one is a noun form and the other is an adjective form. So, and this is a conversation that I have a lot with my students as well for business English. For
Mhm,
English language learners, it's actually pretty cool because instead of just using the pronunciation you grew up with, you can
mhm,
now explore all the pronunciations and decide which one you like best.
mhm.
And I encourage even native speakers to do that. If you come across a new word and you're learning how to pronounce it, learn all the different ways of how it's pronounced, or as many as you can
Mhm.
find, and then use the one that you like. And then it's
I
that
think that's
simple.
sensible.
Yeah.
Well, in my grandmother's day, the transatlantic dialect was considered the proper way to speak American English. Today, it's virtually extinct. There are a few speakers left, I think, but California news dialect has replaced it. I'm
Yes.
not sure if they're still calling it California news dialect, but that's what it was first called, and it's what they use on network news. Um, but that is hardly the the guiding star that all must follow. It's just one dialect. Um, Now, if you want to get all Pygmalion on us and go into the received pronunciation, I can at least understand that because it has history behind it. But still, I think the different ways people pronounce words and use them, because it's also a matter of use, is fascinating. And one of the things we don't know in this country very often are the different ways that British people use English.
Mm.
Um, if you've ever heard Dorset dialect, it's very different from anything we'd hear in this country. And several other regional dialects that I think are declining there, but still in use. And Sherry says pronunciations are changing everywhere, it seems. Spelling is also changing. Well, yes, it is. And she points out
Yeah.
um, judgment versus judgment, um, with one E versus two, or cancellation versus cancellation with two L's versus one. And yes, absolutely.
Those
A
are
lot
British
of
and
what,
English, British and American spellings, yeah.
but
And
do you
you were
know where
talking.
the American spellings come from?
The way I don't know exactly the way where it comes from, but the way I talk about it with my students is that Americans tend to be a bit lazier with our spelling, so we shortened things a lot. So instead of writing two L's, we save time and write one L, and that's how I've explained it to my students, and
You're
mostly just to
right,
help remember.
but there's another aspect in there. It was the newspapers that did it, particularly Charles Wrigley, and they did it to save space in writing stories because they're only so long, and eliminating a few of those letters freed up more space than you would imagine. But if you're looking for the great divine revelation of why we change certain spellings, that's all it is. And I was raised. Oh, and Daniel says emojis will take over one day.
I think they're
And
already
yeah,
starting to in some ways, yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. That especially Sherry in the chat, she was talking about English is always changing. Yeah, it's a
hmm
living and breathing language. So as new
hmm
generations come up, they create their own weird words, and we start wondering why our words are no longer being spoken anymore.
yeah,
And then we think of our parents or grandparents as those old fashioned words, and the time marches on, and it's the same with language. But it's interesting to follow those patterns and keep track
yes.
of them. I'm very fascinated with Gen Z slang in particular, as well as this new Gen Alpha slang, which is quite strange. But then again, I start thinking about 90s slang, and I'm like, oh, it's not really any stranger
No, it's
than
not.
that.
It's
So,
always the same. And we want to say hello to Daniel Michael in the chat room, and Mary Hawk, and George McGilvery. And George says, I remember when we went to grant school, because that's how long I've known George, a teacher walked us down Forest Street and pointed out that it was spelled um, differently on different signs along the street, some with one R, some with two. And yeah,
yeah.
um, we want to say hello to Lynn Townsend, who uh, says hello, keeping
Hello.
everyone in the path of Hurricane Helene in my thoughts. And we must do that as well. And blessed be
Yes.
everyone, Lynn says.
And hello
And
to everyone in the
absolutely.
chat. Yeah. Excellent
But
conversations.
yeah, well, the way that it's you were speaking about the new slang.
Yes.
Um, I saw last night an advertisement for the new Tasting History podcast that I follow.
Oh, tasting
Video,
history. I love
yeah,
that
Max
one.
Miller,
Yes.
which is on Jane Austen's rout cakes. And do you know what rout means in this
Route
case?
cakes or root cakes?
Rout.
Like route as in like a trail?
No, no, it's slang from her generation, which
Interesting.
is largely forgotten today, except among history nerds. But the word rout meant a crashing defeat in a battle. I mean, if one army,
Oh,
and
like
this was
you're
the Napoleonic,
routed.
yeah,
Okay.
if this was the Napoleonic era, and a huge victory routed the defeated one. And for some reason, this became a slang term for a party. And so her rout cakes are party cakes. But if you didn't know that little piece of history, you wouldn't know that word.
It
And
makes
it's the
me
same
wonder
with,
if it
mm,
makes me wonder if rowdy, the word rowdy comes from it, like a rowdy party.
it may, I'm not
Yeah.
certain. But there are so many things like that. If you don't know why they put it that way, and this is the origin of a lot of folk etymology, where people try to figure out what something meant and get it wrong. Uh, but there are so many words like that. If you're
Wicca is
not
a
in on the
hotly
secret,
debated one, I think. In particular, Wicca
oh
itself is
yeah,
a hotly debated one in our
and
community.
and you have to be a certain age. I mean, at my age, I remember that in the 1960s and 70s in the U.S., the term Wicca was more or less synonymous with religious witchcraft. It absolutely did not specifically refer to Gardnerian witchcraft. And the dominant traditions in the country were not Gardnerian, or at least the most obvious ones. That all came later. And Gardner himself didn't even like the word, and specifically did not want his people to use it. He wanted them to call themselves witches. The term Wicca with one C was used by Gardnerians. The term Wicca with two C's was specifically invented, specifically coined. I can't say invented, it's an ancient word, but it was coined specifically for the wider non-Gardnerian religious witchcraft community, and it was coined by Charles Cardell, or at least as far as anyone can show. But a lot of younger people have no idea of any of that, or why that would have been the subject of so many witch wars, because most people had been following that older definition when others tried to force the new one through, which they've still not completely done, though many of them will claim they have. Correllian Wicca belongs to that first definition, not the second one. But that's because, we didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. I mean, I remember when The Survivor was the dominant magazine in the country before Circle took over. And Daniel is pointing out that you can find the word Wicca in the Anglo-Saxon language, and you can find it in early and Middle English. The form the form we commonly think of in Middle English would have been pronounced witcha, and witche or witchy for a male. But it goes back even farther than that. And Daniel says that I have it backwards. The E was for the feminine. Yeah, I think you're right about that, actually. It was witchy for the female and witcha for the male. But in modern English, it's normally pronounced Wicca. Mary says, etymology has always fascinated me.
Same, absolutely. So going back to that word Maybone, I actually have found the correct page now for our
Okay.
Spell Sunday. So I can share that here with people. Let's see. There it is.
Beings. It's Spiritual Sunday, and today we're sharing a beautiful Mabon gratitude and balance ritual from this week's edition of the Weekly Spell. As we celebrate Mabon, the autumn equinox, it's the perfect time to honor balance, express gratitude, and set intentions for the darker half of the year. Here's how to perform the spell. First, set up your altar with 2 candles, one black on the left and one white on the right. Place a small bowl of harvested items like grains, nuts, or dried herbs in the center. Add a sprig of rosemary, an apple, and a small mirror in front of the bowl. Light the black candle first, symbolizing the darker months ahead, then light the white candle for light and hope. Take a deep breath to center yourself. Next, hold the mirror and reflect on the balance of light and dark, both in the world and within you. Notice the areas that feel balanced and those that need attention. Now take the sprig of rosemary and express gratitude for the harvest in your life, whether it's your achievements, your relationships, or personal growth. Speak your gratitude aloud and place the rosemary in the bowl. Then, write down your intentions for the darker months ahead. What do you want to cultivate? What do you want to let go of? Fold your paper and place it under the apple, symbolizing your commitment to these goals. Finally, take a moment to reflect, then extinguish your candles. Let the harvested items remain on your altar until the next full moon as a reminder of the abundance you've acknowledged. This ritual honors the balance of Mabon and helps us align with the energies of gratitude and introspection. Want more spells like this? Sign up for the weekly spell for free at CorrellianPublishing.com. Just scroll to the bottom, enter your email, and receive a new edition filled with spells, astrology, and magical wisdom every Sunday. Be sure to sign up before 6 p.m. EST to get this week's edition. Blessed be.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we want to say hello to Nikki Dodd in the chat room.
Hi, Nikki. Good to see you.
And we need to take a moment, since we're nearing the end of our half hour, for a message from our sponsor, Equinox Learning Hub. And thank you to Equinox Learning Hub for sponsoring our channel. And, you know, talking about Mabon and the ridiculous controversy over it, and it is ridiculous, but it goes back to what I keep saying about picking your fights. This, at this moment in history, is absolute nonsense. We have so many more important things to think about, but you see this again and again in this community. Setting up these ridiculous arguments that don't actually improve anything, but give people a reason to fight because certain people in the community benefit from that. This is one of the things you can learn about through the Witch Wars Defense Manual, and why certain forces in the community want constant fighting. And, you know, all I can say is that of all the battles you could put your time into, it's probably the one that offers you the least. Not least of which because you can't control what name anyone else uses. But it will give certain people an excuse to get all upset and carry on and so forth. So
my advice to students has always been be flexible with your pronunciation. If someone pronounces it differently, if you want to adapt to that style so that you can, you know, mirror what they're doing, and that helps people connect with you more easily. It's a psychological thing. So,
you know, that's the thing. I mean, if there is any aspect of this kind of argument that is relevant, it is that using common terms can be beneficial. And, you know, I have to think to some extent that's what the people starting this argument are trying to prevent. But why would they want to prevent us from using common terms? And the answer is and Kieran asks, may I get a reading, please? No, we're not doing readings. However, if you'd like a reading, you can tune into Tarot Thursday tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central. Beg your pardon, 8 p.m. Eastern. And they do readings there.
And we do have readings available on our website as well, if you're interested.
That's true. You can book a reading at CorrellianPublishing.com.
Yeah.
Plus, we are also at the end of our time. So we really can't do that. With that, I guess we should say thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Krys, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'll be back tomorrow, and let us close, as we always do, with our prayer. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives. We rejoice in this walk we walk together, and we ask you to help us to keep flexible minds and help us to stay open to the many influences around us and the understanding that they often change. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we rejoice in this beautiful world, and thank you for all that exists. And knowing you're always with us, still from respect, we thank you for your presence. And may you be blessed now and always. And may you be blessed now and always. And Krys, may you be blessed.
Thank you. Same to you.